higher learning institution, or do you have any other courses that you think you can contribute that are causes of mental health? You can contribute via the chat or just raise your hand. So on the next question to our panelists, what action can young people take to minimize mental health problems in their institution? And how is the administration in the various schools and the government addressing this issue? Now let's start from Lennox.
Sorry, Gladys, I was having quite unstable. Please come up again.
Okay, I asked, what action can young people take to minimize mental health problems in their institution, and how is the administration and the government addressing this issue in the various institutions or the country that you're in?
Oh, well, thank you very much. Now, as we know that the greatest mental health condition that we've been experiencing, as I said, we said the consequences. And therefore, we don't need to study the consequences, but we need to work out at the root more than the fruits, so that when the fruits are rotten or are sour, we must know that what kind of soil or water was the plant consuming. Therefore, the greatest way as far as my opinion is concerned, and from the collective opinion I've had from my fellow students, is to ensure that we speak out these things that we may share. Because as far as even suicide, which is the greatest manifestation, I'm sorry to say that even recently in the Rongo University here in Kenya, in Migori County, a third-year student was found, died of suicide, and a third-year student. So that one shows that many comrades of many students are undergoing such conditions. And the best alternative is through peer counseling groups. Because some of the officers of counseling, as far as experienced and detailed they may be, many students find it quite a difficult task to approach the officers in quest of seeking help in one way or the other. Therefore, we need to engage more in such forums of the young people. So, when we are young and the same age group, we also fit together. And we know that birds of the same feather, they do flock together. And as we shall flock together and try to enunciate different ideas as far as concerned. And also on the part of the government, how the government is aiding in this, I want to believe that the government should also reduce the penal code, so the criminalization of acts like suicide or such things like that. For example, when you die nowadays, if you are caught commit suicide and you don't die, it is called attempted murder, and it has a penal code around 20 years, not at least 20 years in prison. Therefore, it's as if they're trying to bring social stigmatization to this phenomenon of mental health. So the government also needs to look for better alternatives to deal with these people who are having mental conditions. For example, you can find people in the streets, now this outside of the comrades, or maybe the streets, sometimes they collect this, they take these people and they post them somewhere and maybe charge some of them. The county councils and the city councils, such phenomena should not exist if we want to reduce all kinds of such. So, and also as far as professional studies concerned, for instance, I'm studying civil engineering or engineering. Those studying engineering will agree with me that there's what we call accreditation of courses. And therefore the government has not accredited one of a university to offer certain course. And you are there as a comrade or a student studying there. You gain stress and stress build up with the time as you study maybe for 5 years or 6 years, then you're told that you are not accredited, you cannot do anything. That one has made many students to lose hope in life and also engage in some of the non-profit gaining acts, which are not helpful. So I would like to stop there, unless otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lennox. I can see a hand from Tunu Kalanje. Just unmute and give us your feedback.
Okay. From my perspectives, I think most of the problems that are affected with mental health nowadays, especially to girls, this has been because of cyberbullying. We can't ignore that technology has been helps us doing various activities online, such as a meeting we're conducting here is because of technology. But technology, it has been a factor that affecting most of the girls' mental health due to cyberbullying, and we experience that most of the girls nowadays have been affected with this cyberbullying. So, on my opinion, I can government should have enacted rules and regulation, and they should have implemented them so as to reduce this cyberbullying.
Thank you so much, Tunu, for talking about that very vital point about cyberbullying, because we are at the era where everyone is using phones, computer, and they're posting on the social media platforms. So yeah, that's one of the causes. So continuing with the discussion, other actions that young people can take to minimize mental health. Let's hear from Gladys Njoki.
I think as a person, one is to be part of a support group. Okay, not necessarily a support group, but like have a group of friends, or or form clubs with classmates or just schoolmates, where young people can just embrace conversations around mental wellness. By this, you're creating awareness to a person or another comrade who doesn't know this is a normal problem. In African society, mental illnesses are attached to things like witchcraft or just some evil things, which I don't think should be the case. So I think just by creating awareness and educating each other, that could be very important. And also young people in institutions should be the ones to champion such conversations. Like us as youth leaders should organize such conversations on mental wellness and probably even have, like monthly discussions about it. For the administration, in my school, we have a peer counseling club where like people are trained every year. There's a cohort every year where students are trained to be peer counselors. So that has been quite helpful, because one of the qualifications or recommendations to be a student leader in my school is you have to have gone through the peer counseling program, because you're able to reach out and influence the behavior, or rather just the lives of several students. So I think the administrations in other institutions should embrace the same too. Ours is an open door policy. You can always get a counselor in the peer counseling office who is not a member of the administration, which is very nice. And we also have psychology clubs where students are trained to actually offer therapy to their fellow students. I am not sure about the government, but I remember in high school and primary, we used to have a life skill class where we used to have such conversations. I wish in campus, instead of doing some common units, which I find very relevant, this can be introduced by the Ministry of Education. Yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you, Gladys Njoki, for being involved in this conversation and also telling us about your school and the initiative that they have, and also the actions, like you said, being part of a support group, clubs, meeting with your schoolmates, educating each other, creating awareness, such actions that young people can take in the universities and in their institution of learning. We have a hand from Athuman Msangi. Yes, you can just unmute your mic and explain to us what you think about this discussion. Athuman?
Hello, mambo zenu.
Mzuri sana.
Okay. I would like to contribute my perception about the mental health, especially in university students. Hello, do you hear me?
Tunakusikia. We can hear you.
Unanisikia?
Nakusikia.
When we speak about the mental health, actually we are focused on well-being of the student in a manner of how he or she think, how he or she feels and act, how he or she can handle stress, he or she how to make a choice. But the actual, I want to speak about the real causes of mental health actually in a negative way, especially in my college. Actually, most of students undergo this problem due to that associated by environment. Actually, in my college, most of students they pay themselves tuition fees. So when we come in a way where they get that money, is where you find a student can be involved in some issues that actually can danger or and lead to the mental retardation. Example, you find that mfano, I will code mix, sorry for that. Hello?
Unaweza tuelezea tu na Kiswahili, haina shida.
Okay, nachanganya.
Haina shida.
Okay, so about that issue, sometimes environment can lead to mental retardation to university students, since most of students, they don't want even to share their problem with the others. As long as myself, I believe that when you have a problem and you decide maybe to share with your friends, is where you can get even how to start solving your problem. But sometimes you find most of the students, they don't want even to share their problem. To share is not bad, but whom you share. Sometimes you can share your problem with unproductive people who can emphasize you even in a negative way or to act in negative way. So in a way of solving this, actually I can take in my college is where you find that in our college you have the guidance and counseling department, which play a role of maybe convincing, emphasizing, and advising students the best way, which can enable him or her to be away with such problem. But out of that, I think the major things or major way to solve a mental problem toward the university students is where you can share your problem with others. But actually, we have the several platforms as TYVA. We have such platform where we mobilizing most of the students from different colleges, which we settle together and discuss some youth issues, and where is when we get the most of things ambazo zinatokea sana kwenye vyuo, na lakini hii huwa inatokana na baada ya kuchukua hayo mawazo yao is where we can settle and advocate to government, maybe enacting law, as Tunu said there, kwamba cyberbullying is the most problem as a negative way of using technology. So due to that, I think the most things ambayo vijana wanaweza kufanya is where they can share their problems with the others. That is the best way you can solve your personal problem rather than everlasting sadness. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, Athuman, for explaining to us that sharing is one way of solving mental illness among the young people. Talk with your friends, group, just share. We also want to hear from our friends from Uganda. Denise Ayebare, could you kindly explain to us what you think about the actions that young people take to minimize mental health problem in the institution.
Okay, so thank you so much. What I think that young children are doing and should continuously do, I think at a point in time that we all talk about what is affecting us, or when you talk about something, there is an extent to what is reduced, yeah? So I think as friends and socializing, there should be that counseling session like what has been said, yeah? So that people can be able to talk about these things, yeah? What I can mean, it's like a human diary, so that everyone knows that what they're going through is not the worst or it's not the end, yeah? But also secondly, I think what should really be done is that people should have should have time and know that some things are their influence. If you cannot influence something, then let it not be affecting you, or let it not affect. Some things are out of our circle of influence and we cannot influence them. Yeah? We should have that meditation as the youth, sit down and know that if I cannot influence anything, then I can't stress about it. It's very funny. I know sometimes things happen like crises and they affect us to the grassroots, right? But then if you cannot influence anything, or if anything is out of your power, then there is that meditation that you need to take and be like, I'm no longer going to care about what is happening if I can't influence it. Yeah. And then thirdly, I think what stresses and brings about all this mental health, it's the inability to do what we want to do. Yeah. So I think at the point in time that is happening, and all these other, mental health problems from different areas, like let's say family, institutions, and all these things from different backgrounds. Yeah, people need to talk about them. People sort of need to feel emotionally attached, and this is something that is missing within the youth. Yeah, like this generation, it's a generation where they do not know, they want not to know about emotion, or they do not care about anyone's mental health. But I think in like the psychological needs are that touched, because I think by the time someone has mental health problems, or the youth are facing such problems, they need some sort of emotional care. They need to feel cared for, or they need to feel like they have someone to rely on, and that is what is lacking currently. I mean, even when you have friends, there are these friends who you're going to go out and do other things, but no one is going to give a damn about how one is doing mentally, how one is doing psychologically. And that is what we need. We need to rely on each other as humans for survival and that sustainability in society. But if it's not that, or then we're going to problems. Even when one talks to you, people are insensitive in society. Someone is going to tell you, well, we all have problems, every man for himself. So that is what continuously breaks down people, and it makes them like robots. Yeah. So when there is no difference between an IA in artificial intelligence or even a human, because we no longer have that emotional touch. In society, sensitive people should become caring, or let me say affectionate. I know that you have someone to rely on, and then be able to talk out. If you do not voice out anything, then it continuously kills you inside. Yeah. So that is how you're going to see people dying internally, and then they're not saying anything, and that leads to stress. It's going to lead to anxiety, like I talked about, the mood swings. It's going to lead to loss of. Nothing is going to happen in society that is very productive. So two things have, like I've talked about counseling and everything, and then be able to create bonds that are sensitive. Bonds where if you shared with someone, even though it has not solved any problem, then you know that at least I've said this, and at least I'm feeling better, I've voiced it out. And thirdly, things that are out of our influence, things that we cannot influence, we should not stress about them. Yeah, even though it's at the grassroots level, it's going to affect us in the long run. But if you cannot influence it, then live with that and adapt, because ability that helps us to pass all these three things. Yeah, so that's what I can advise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Denise, for stating that we have to learn how to not stress about things that we cannot influence, change, or are out of power. Like, if we can't do that, let's learn to live without stressing ourselves, because those are things that we can't change. So the Youth Agenda CEO wants to contribute something and his hand is up. You can unmute Mr. Victor.
Mine is just a question to our panelists. I could hear during the introductions, most of them are student leaders from various institutions. And being a student leader, you also have a role to ensure that your students are okay within your institution. And I know we've talked about what the government needs to do and what the students are doing themselves, but I want to hear from the panelists in terms of you as a leader, what are you doing to ensure that this issue is addressed? Because as a leader, if you remain silent, then high chances are the university or the college will also remain silent on this matter. So what action have you taken as a leader to ensure that the university you're in is addressing the mental health among the students?
Thank you so much for that question. We'll start by Simon Joram Msenge, student coordinator of Jakarta.
Okay, asante. Actually, of course, we as student leaders, we have taken several initiatives to ensure that we solve these problems and making mental health to be well for the students. For example, here universities tulishauri, advise to the management that to form to every student the way he or she can have a academic advisor, and that the management did. For example, in my college, kila mwanafunzi, every student ana academic advisor wake, ambapo if ana face any challenge anaweza kwenda kuzungumza na academic advisor wake. The second thing, kutokana tumeona there is a challenge of in mental health, tumeweza kuemphasize na kuiomba chuo ambako imeweza kuingia makubaliano with UNESCO to establish a course about sexual issues, because what we noticed that most of the students here in university wanna face a challenge in a sexual relationship because it's the first time for them to be in the relationship, because wamekuja wakiwa katika age ya adolescence. So and that university wameanzisha hiyo course, wanasaidia kufundisha wanafunzi juu ya kuweza sustain with this stress from the relationships and other issues. And also we have through student organizations, we have mobilized the universities to establish a unit where students they may go there to get a counseling about their social issues, life issues, and academic issues. So through our kupitia chuo chetu, management ya chuo chetu, kupitia Dean of Student, tuna unit ambayo inatoa ushauri na nasaha kwenye mada mbalimbali ambazo wanapitia wanafunzi. That's one thing. The second thing, tumekuwa tuki-emphasize kupitia different concepts or whatever, wanafunzi kuweza ku-socialize, to engage with themselves, kwamba mwanafunzi anapokuwa anaji-isolate, anakuwa na hold different issues mwenyewe, inaweza ikamletea matatizo. Kwa hiyo mara nyingi tumekuwa tuki-emphasize kuzungumza. They have to talk with their friends in a class or wherever, in order to release some issues in their heart. For example, tumekuwa tuki-emphasize even class reps, kuhakikisha kwamba they notice if there are any changes in terms of behavior with their students. Class rep or class representatives may look to every member in a class. If there are some changes, anatakiwa aende azungumze naye, what happened, anaface nini na kadhalika. So that's the way we try to propagate to the student to ensure that their mental health is well. So, but another thing, the another thing is we try as much as possible through different clubs. In university, we have different clubs So we emphasize students to join different clubs to ensure that in that clubs they can meet with the different programs that will help them to maintain their stress, to avoid on. That's the way we did here in University of Dar. At least we improve on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Simon. We also have other student leaders. Kindly, let's hear from you. I know some of the participants in this discussion are student leaders. Just raise your hand if you have anything like you want to contribute to the discussion. Gladys, what do you think that your school as a student leader you're doing? Gladys.
Okay. First of all, I think that's a good question for me because it's under my docket. So I am in charge of the social welfare of students generally. So first of all, when we get new students in our school, especially first years, because they are really young, we make sure during orientation, they can identify peer counselors within the school. Also, it is not a must, but it is recommended that you join 2 clubs in my school, and most of our school clubs are kind of social welfare clubs. So at least 1 professional club, then 1 social club, where you can have like people to interact with, especially who have been in campus for a longer time than you are. So that's one of the things we do with the clubs committee and the social welfare committee as well. I mentioned earlier that we have a counseling department. So our peer counseling program is open to any student who is willing to learn. So that has helped us in creating more awareness among ourselves. Yeah, it has been helpful for peer counseling because now most student leaders first go through peer counseling in whatever level, whether class rep or executive or a chair in a committee. So through that, they are able to reach out to students, and when someone has an issue, at least they can approach a leader. And you don't really have to be a leader to join the peer counseling club. Apart from that, we have formed a psychology club lately, which is under my faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. So we are trying to improve, because there are things that peer counselors can't offer that are taught in a psychology class, that psychologists, or rather future psychologists, would be able to handle. So those are just some of the things that we are trying to do as a student leader personally and with other student leaders.
Okay, thank you, Gladys Njoki. Denise, what's your take? Denise from Uganda. Denise, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can get you. I think I'm having some connectivity issues, but hope you can get me right now. Well, I myself, as a student leader, just that I'm on the council, not really like influential that much, but just like what I talked about, how people should be able to talk to each other and relate to each other. Every Wednesday, we initiated this as the book club, where we sort of have human libraries. People come and share their stories. And talk about the different things that are affecting them. And at the end of the sessions, we get reviews always, and we have numbers increasing because it helps these people to reveal their stress. And actually, people find it very nice because they are able to interact and know that, you know what, well, this is not the end of it all. This could even be funnier than what I'm facing. So you find people actually making jokes out of it, which sort of relieves their stress and makes them feel better at the end of it all. So I think that is like an initiative I would encourage, like to have human libraries. People just come to share their stories. They just talk about what is affecting them. And at the end of it all, you just have like a review session. Yep. And this is a book club that has to do together with religion. I mean, so it helps people to strengthen themselves to those particular people that have Christianity,
and it helps them to go back hopeful to face these problems and know that it's not the end. So I think that if I myself influenced, and I hope for it to be bigger in the institution. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Denise, for that insight. At your school, you have book clubs, it's basically having human libraries. Then Lennox would appreciate if you also gave us a little bit of what you're doing in your university to curb this issue to do with mental health.
Please come up again.
As a student, this is what I'm asking. As a student leader, what exactly are you doing to also impact change and also contribute to reducing the mental health crisis in your school?
Oh, well, thank you very much. So this is quite a dynamic phenomenon that does not need only the peer counselors or the counseling office. It needs the combination of the students themselves, the administration, the federal government, the parents, the general, and even the movements of students along different paths. For instance, in the University of Kenya, many students stay out of school. Not many. We don't have internal hostels, so almost all students walk out. Around 95% of the students, they travel to different parts of the city here and there, and through that they experience mental health. And what we are trying to champion for us now, as far as the mental health sustainment of the comrades is concerned, we are trying to engage the administration into bringing the council to people's dialogue. We normally have dialogue in school, and actually I want to believe that we had one of the mega dialogues in January, where students, the entire student council, from the executive council, the president, and all that, to the student leaders, all kinds of student leaders were there. It was a student and a student talk, where students express the dissatisfaction they have in the service and delivery of the university and the general society, student and residential students. I want to believe that's one of the major steps that we are trying to take in quest of curbing, reducing, eliminating, and even incinerating this phenomenon known as mental health condition. And also, as one of the student leaders here in school, I want to believe that also the lecturers, we are trying to bring, like the Vice Chancellor, we had a Mrs. Bachi the other day, and he was also sharing about trying to convince the lecturers to avoid only being told intrinsic with the knowledge that they're giving the students, intrinsic, scientific, and experiencing, and I mean giving the pragmatic approach of life, the practical way of life. That is one of the steps that lecturers should take, to just give the students that outside here is different from inside, and inside also is different from outside. Since they have experienced both faith, they have a test of them, so that the students may not dance in between the parties. As you know, whoever dances between the parties misses all the parties. That we may also have a proportionate emphasis in this phenomenon. So I want to believe that up to that point, all kind of health conditions, whether they're egoistic, fatalistic, altruistic, or anomic, they should be curbed through conversation between all kinds of people in the sphere of general population in society. So thank you very much. I want to believe that is quite satisfactory at the moment.
Okay, thank you so much, Lennox, for giving us a brief of what as a student leader you are doing and having those dialogue with your lecturers, having those dialogues with the students. The next question, I'm directing it to everyone. Before we have that hand from our CEO, I'm directing it to everyone. What are the recommendations that as students you think that you can make, or you think that if this and this is done, maybe mental health can be at least salvaged and people can be helped in their institutions, in their various institutions. So I'll leave it to everyone, the participants and the panelists, to answer that question as we Youth Agenda CEO to unmute his mic and give us his feedback.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Moderator. I see that there are other hands raised, but I see my point is like I'm responding to that question. So just to contribute to the discussion, there is what we called lived experience. This is giving an opportunity to students or individuals who've gone through mental health challenge, but again, they are now okay. For me, I find that will be an opportunity for us to organize such conversations with such individuals in universities, just for them to share the experience in terms of how they manage to address, how they manage to fight mental health where during their time and all that. So with that, I believe it will help encourage more young people out there, more students out there in terms of how can they handle the mental health struggles they have at the moment. So this is something I will encourage even just the student leaders who are part of this conversation, that this is something you can consider domesticating, or you can consider implementing in your institution. Invite individuals who had mental health challenge sometimes back, but they are now okay. They managed to come out of it. Use them to have a conversation with students. And also another recommendation, I want to believe you guys work very closely with deans of students. And again, for those institutions that already have psychosocial departments within the universities, then I know most students tend to run away. They have issues, but they don't want to disclose, or they're afraid in terms of other students knowing their identity. So can we have a platform where someone can talk about the challenge they are facing without their identity being revealed to the rest of the students? And through that, the officer who is in charge from the psychosocial department can be able to respond to this student, or again, without revealing their identity. Thank you, and back to you, moderator. I see there's another hand.
Thank you so much, Mr. Victor, for giving us some of the recommendations as students we can undertake. Madam Gladys Njeri, I see your hand is up. Yes.
Hello all. I'm Gladys Njeri, a student from Technical University of Kenya. First of all, I want to thank you, the agenda, for this platform and the panelists on board. It's such a timely conversation when we as students, we are by the way suffering, while having online classes, which we are used to physical classes. So the interactions are limited, as well as having the forums to air our challenges. As Lennox was saying, we have limited opportunities.
I think, Gladys, you have muted your speaker.
In our studies, it's becoming you can't approach lecturers as you are used to.
Jerry?
The public universities, which is the truth, accessing the counselors, the school tends to say they have provided, it's difficult. So having clubs where we can be meeting, sharing what we are facing. When someone has depression, maybe we can come up with a solution ourselves before approaching the administration will be a good thing. Another thing I think as students, maybe we have to think and look at things differently. It's upon us to start addressing mental health at a personal level before we think of coming as a group to address it. But I guess it's a good thing. And I can say in universities, we're currently trying to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gladys, for that insight. Having clubs, students to talk about their issues. We'd really love to hear from the participants. The courses that you've said, like relationship, financial issues, cyberbullying, drugs, what are the recommendations that as an individual you can do and as a student leader you can do to also prevent mental health in your institution? Also want to hear from our panelists. Denise? What are the recommendations that you think, if the things that if they are put in place or they are done, or what you think if it's enhanced, mental health will have reduced at some point?
Okay, so I think when you emphasize counseling, like everyone has been saying, when there is emphasis on counseling, there is going to be a change. But also, secondly, when we have things such as sharing, and then knowing that if things are out of your influence, you're not going to influence anything. You cannot change anything, even though you're stressed about it. So I think what should happen at the end of it all is to emphasize counseling, and we should make sure that we do not have just like friends, but we have an emotional touch with the friends we make. Like we can get to share with them, or we can get to relate to them. And I think those are some of the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Denise. We have a hand, Stephen Kizito. Kindly unmute your mic.
Okay, thanks. My name is Stephen Mhela Kizito from National Institute of Transport in Tanzania. Yeah, my view on that I can share about to reduce that mental problem among higher learning students. I think to build capacity or knowledge for the students to stay positive. I think you can initiate maybe reading books, some motivational books and quotations. I think the students, most of us, we are raised about reading books. Maybe we can share different quotations so as to eliminate this student from suffering or innovating from that mental problems, and then they can save them. So by reading books, psychological books, and so other books, so there is a knowledge which can get in order to reduce that problem. Thanks.
Gladys, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Please unmute. We are not getting.
Oh, sorry. I just thanks Mr. Kizito for his feedback, and I was asking, there's a big problem that Mr. Simon Joram from Tanzania has really emphasized in his talk, that he said like sexual relationship in Tanzania is really a problem. What do you think are some of the recommendations in Tanzania about that? Do you think if this is made, maybe it would reduce the issues to do with mental problem on that sector? Joram? Joram, if you can hear me. Simon Joram Msenga, sorry.
Oh, hello.
We can hear you.
Okay. My recommendation is first of all is that
We can't hear you, Simon. Simon?
hello.
Yeah, go on.
I think we've lost Simon. Perhaps maybe someone else can respond.
Yeah, Someone else to
Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Nasikika sasa?
Saizi unasikika.
I'm sorry, na face challenge ya network, lakini nilikuwa nasema ya kwamba naweza nikasisitiza vyuo kwa hapa Tanzania kuhakikisha kwamba zinazalisha program mbalimbali ambazo zinaweza kuwasaidia kwa train wanafunzi kuweza kumanage stress in relationship, and also what I emphasize to the government of Tanzania kuanzisha masomo ya masuala ya afya uzazi katika shule za sekondari hasa kwa sababu tunachokiweza kukiobserve ni kwamba elimu ya afya uzazi kwa wanafunzi here in Tanzania haitolewi kwa uwazi, inakuwa inafichwa sana. Kwa hiyo wanafunzi mpaka wakifika vyuoni wanakuwa wanakutana na hivi vitu pembeni, sio katika maeneo rasmi. So sasa inategemea na group la wanafunzi wenzia atakalokutana nalo. Akikutana na marafiki wabaya wanaweza kumfundisha vibaya namna ambavyo mahusiano yanakuwa. Sasa akiendea in a wrong way mahusiano, ndio anakuwa analeta challenge baadaye, kwa sababu anakuwa amekutana na watu wasio sahihi wa kuweza kumsaidia katika masuala ya mahusiano. Vivyo hivyo ambavyo naweza nikasisitiza kwamba hii elimu ya masuala ya afya ya uzazi na mahusiano, yani sexual issues, zikianza kufundishwa mashuleni kuanzia primary, secondary mpaka wafike chuo, itasaidia sana kupunguza hii kitu ya kama ni mgeni, yani inakuwa it's not a new thing to them. Maybe labda ndo anaweza kaweki na challenge nyingine tu kama hizo za kuweza kwamba wameshafika chuo, wana uhuru labda kuweza tu overcome zile problem za upweke na problems za kwamba kuna stress zile nyingine za maisha ya chuo, lakini stress kama za mahusiano nadhani zinaweza zikasaidiwa kupunguzwa kutokea chini. Ukifika huku juu inakuwa sio kitu kigeni kwako. Na kingine ni kwamba wanafunzi pia sisi wenyewe ni kuhakikisha kwamba tunafanya kila kitu kwa wakati wake, sio vitu vingine tunataka kuadapt. The problem ni kwamba siku hizi kuna mitandao ya kijamii. Sasa mitandao ya kijamii imekuwa ni kama swimming pool, ukiingia humo unakutana na kila aina ya kitu. Sasa wanafunzi kujitahidi tu kwamba sio kila wanachokiona katika mitandao ya kijamii ni kwamba wanakuwa involved nacho, wasisukumwe na pressure kubwa ya vitu vilivyo katika mitandao ya kijamii. Wanatakiwa wawe selective kidogo, na sio kila jambo wanatakiwa washiriki. Wanatakiwa vingine keep aside, sio kila jambo wanatakiwa utry, kwa sababu kuna nyakati mtu bado mahusiano unaona hujaamudu, lakini unataka kuyapaparikia, mwisho wa siku hizo yanakuletea challenge. Kwa my recommendation ni katika hizo sehemu tatu, ni kuhakikisha tu kwamba vyuo vinahitajika kuandaa program mbalimbali za kuweza kuwasaidia wanafunzi. Pili, tunapaswa serikali kuhimiza katika our curriculum kuhakikisha kwamba wanafunzi wanafundishwa elimu ya afya ya uzazi kuanzia wakiwa chini mpaka tunapofika kwenye universities, at least mambo ya mahusiano na afya ya uzazi na kwa sio vitu vigeni kwao, kwa wataweza kuepuka hizo stress. Cha tatu ni kuhakikisha si wanafunzi wenyewe wanakuwa very careful katika kila wanachokiona katika hizi social media. Asante sana.
Asante sana Simon Msenga. We also have people interacting at the chat box. If you want to say something, kindly you can type it or raise your hand. So I'll just read some of the feedbacks I've gotten from the chat box. The first one is from Chris James. Since we are students, we have our close friends who we use to share our problems in attempting to solve them. But when having irrational friends, it can lead us into more psychological problems by advising us the wrong ways to encounter those problems. Naita, I think the thing which makes students to be quite quiet, especially Tanzania, is because of poor management system of gender. I think she meant gender-based violence at our university, and this is because when some go there to report, he or she loses hope because of most of lecturers defend on each other, and this make a student to refuse or remain quiet because he or she is afraid of being dismissal to his or her university. What do you think? Do you think your school is supporting? Does your school have counseling facilities? Do you think your school is supporting to do away with mental issues? As our friend here said, people are afraid to go and report because they are afraid of being dismissed by their lecturers. From Tanzania, do you think universities are really helping to curb mental health in the institution? Do you have counselors? Do you have rooms where you can go share safe spaces? I really need to hear from you guys. Lennox, you could explain to us, do you think the school is really helping to do away with mental issues? As we're winding up this discussion, I really need to hear from students from different universities across the Eastern Africa region to tell us, do you think the university is really trying and to curb this issue, to do with mental issue? And yeah, from the student leaders, from the students themselves, I just need to hear your feedbacks. What do you think you should be doing or the universities are doing?
Nzisa,
Yes.
allow me to just point out something. From a social science point of view, this whole issue with mental illnesses or just mental health generally cuts across. The reason why we could be having a lot of them now is, of course, society is evolving with time. And I think the counselors we are having, or just the people we go to for advice, are people in the previous generations. So I am not sure if they do relate with our generation and how it is right now. So I feel like it starts from the roots. There's a problem starting with our African culture point of view, where, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a mental illness or if you're in Mathare, it is associated with ulirogwa ama ulifanya kitu mbaya, like it's just associated with those evil things in society. And also, I don't think in Africa we have reached in a point where we have normalized therapy or just opening up. When it comes to mental illnesses, I don't know whether my statistics are right, but I feel like the boy child is more affected. Could be because of culture also, because of the so-called toxic masculinity, where it's not easy for men to just open up, which is attached to our culture also. I don't know. I do not understand how. I think with this social media, as someone said, we're having people succeeding at very young ages. And because we all have access to that, we feel pressure, or we get societal pressure to, have made it to a certain point at a certain age. And if someone fails along the way, they feel useless and they feel like they're not valued. So is it something that is I'm not sure if this is attached to our culture, but I feel like there should be room for people who also fail to start again. Because now once you fail in this society we are in, and success is defined in a totally different way in current society. It could be monetary, could be educational, but we are not all very good in these fields. So yeah, just sharing my thoughts on what I think about this whole issue.
Okay, thank you so much. As we're doing the closing remarks, we also need to hear from Boychild. Mr. Lennox and Simon, we could also need your input on this. How is the boy child being left behind, and how is the boy child suffering in terms of mental health? And as you conclude, what is your final remarks on mental health and what you will do and will continue doing in your institutions to prevent and to also make awareness of mental health in schools? Let's start with Lennox.
Well, thank you very much, Gladys. Yes. Now, on the question as far as the boy child emphasis is concerned, it goes without much utterances that the boy child, from the societal and the cradle of human heritage, the boy child has been known to be the preeminent member of any subset of the society, and the domain thereof they domineer. And hence or otherwise, it goes without much sentiment that the boy child has been undergoing mental condition in quest of reaching the par, reaching the threshold, the minimum requirements that it is expected of them as society. They have been deemed as a people who are vibrant, proactive, and prolific as far as reasoning, practicality is concerned. And hence, at that point, it tells me that whenever a person, I don't want to presume that these people, they have some compromise systems, which they may be there, but I don't want to indulge myself in things which I myself cannot fathom. But whenever a person, for example, there's something called age limits. People are expected to do this by this age, do this by this age. At 50, you should be having a PhD, you should be half a dean of students, some university, you should be a vice chancellor, maybe. That is also something expected of you. And at 50 years, there you are, not near university yourself. That one can create a mental disorder because that person will be anomalized, for instance, will be taken as abnormal part of society. And so at the moment you are disintegrated with the societal norms and beliefs, you feel neglected, and that one develops into what they call anomic mental disorder. Altruistic disorder occurs that when a person does not satisfy the requirements of society, that person considered to be abnormal in society. That one may be fatalistic or otherwise egoistic. Therefore, I would like to say that the boy child, somehow they need also to be educated that the world is quite a mirage, it's quite an illusion and an ignis fatuus that does not need much deliberations of competitive arguments as far as reaching our goals and desires and anticipations are concerned. And then in what I'll continue doing, I would like to say that I'll continue championing, engaging orthogonally, deliberately, and ensuring that I meet different comrades here and there and advance further in knowing their mental conditions, any kind of needs, requirements, and deficiencies they have, so that the best way possible, we can try to reach and aid them in those ways, whether through the administration, through the student council leadership, whether through the classmates, the lecturers, the schools, and the national government, in each and every way. For example, bursaries, school fees, and everything, we need to ensure that we mobilize enough that students get access to many of the socio-economic amenities that are provided there. And in my final remarks, I believe that's the only thing left. I would like to say that such engagement should be taken seriously, so that all kinds of mental disorders, whether even the medical conditions like the schizophrenia and epilepsies, which also have some sort of mental condition influence, we need also to embrace these people. We need to show love, peace, harmony, consonance to each and everybody, so that we can build a cohesive, homogeneous society that agrees that surely each and every life is important in changing and making an impact in the general society. At that point, I'm Lennox Onyango, student from TUC, Civil Engineering, Puritan, Exegate. Apologies. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Lennox, for your feedback and also emphasizing on the words that you've said. Keep on fighting for boy child, and yeah. So we had a hand up. I don't know where Mr. Kizito went to, because he had his hand up. Now let's hear it from Mr. Simon from Tanzania. Your closing remarks. Okay. I don't know if he can hear me. As he prepares himself to give us his final remarks, Stephen Kizito, are you able to speak? Stephen. Okay. Yeah. Stephen, you can speak.
Are you with me? Hello. Hello.
Tunakusikia, we can hear you.
Okay. Among of the crucial mental health problem among our students associated in Tanzanian universities and colleges, I think it's the problem about economical status, because of most of our students are coming to the university or colleges from the poor or the middle families. Maybe they can't afford to pay some tuition fees and other accommodations. So the students still suffering from mental health according to the stresses that how can I cover my fees and my bills to the place I live? And the government bring maybe loans and is not satisfied. So we should have to think extra miles about these economic matters, because for the social problem like relationship and other stresses, we can handle by personal problems. But in this case of economic, it is another greatest problem and have been taken serious by the government and other financial institutions. We can maybe can suggest students across this East African country, maybe we can organize ourselves and maintain our entrepreneurship clubs so that we can maybe ask for the loan from the government and we can insert ourselves according to his or her. We have different professions. Maybe there's someone in engineering and others in cover in whatever. We can do something, maybe a business or what, in order to fulfill that economic problems, because most of us we suffer from that. And the problem we come for the mental health from this economic problem. So I can advise so that we can initiate entrepreneurship clubs so that we can do something in order to raise our income and we can pay that fees and bills, because that is the greatest problem, I think, for me and for the university belong. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kizito. Mr. Simon, closing remarks, and Denise from Uganda. We really need you to speak on what you think on mental issues in your institution as a closing remark. And if you are able to turn on your videos as we finish up the conversation, kindly do so. If you are able to turn on the videos, you speak, and as you listen to the people speak in the conversation, just turn on your videos, and yeah. So Denise, your closing remarks. Denise. Okay, Simon. Simon Senga. Your closing remarks. I don't know if they can hear me. Okay, Gladys Njoki, would you kindly give us your closing remarks as we wind up with the conversation? And if you're able to kindly just let us see your face, just unmute your videos, let us see you.
Wow.
Just open your videos.
I'm not showing up. Yeah. So my final remarks would be, as student leaders, or in whatever capacity, let us try to restructure what people think about mental health, and let's normalize mental health conversation. Let's normalize therapy. Yeah, let's normalize these things that in our society are termed as abnormal, yet it's very okay to have them. Yeah, so my closing remarks would be, to everybody, it's okay not to be okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Njoki. Simon, your closing remarks? Simon, Senga. I don't know if you can hear us. We could also have anyone from the participants if you want to say anything. Really urge us to, okay, Simon. Simon, unmute your mic, and also you can also show us your face by opening up your video. Yeah, Simon, unmute your mic. Okay. Simon is having a little bit of hitch. I really would love my colleague, Mr. Victor, to unmute his mic. Victor, you can unmute Simon's mic.
Okay. Do you want me to close or what?
No, unmute Victor's
Okay.
mic.
Sorry?
Unmute Victor's mic.
Victor who?
Not Victor, sorry. Simon's mic. Simon Nsenga.
But he should be in a position to unmute from his end.
I think he's having some little bit of technical itch. Simon, you can just type into the chat box. I'll read out your message. But in the meantime, you can write your message on the chat box. In the meantime, you can write your message in the chat box for us to, I'll read it. As you wait for Simon's message.
Simon, try unmuting now.
Okay. As we wait for Simon's message from the chat box, I really want to thank the panel who availed themselves today. Madam Gladys Njoki from Catholic University, Lennox Ndeda, Technical University of Kenya, Denise Ayebare, Makerere University, and Simon from University of Dar es Salaam, and everyone who participated in this discussion. Really urge you to continue with the conversation, as little as you can, everyone, to get involved to make a change about mental health in the institution and in their region at large. Make mental health awareness and educate people on how they can get help, where they can get help in the different institutions and in the different areas that they are in. So as students, the little that you can do to make change, kindly do so. Get involved in the group that you are in, as today we discuss, talk in different clubs, have counselors talk to you. if you're experiencing any issue with mental illness. So thank you so much, guys. And I'll just read messages from the chat box. Just you can type in the chat box as we are winding up the conversation. Message from Simon. Thank you very much for this powerful discussion. I still emphasize to continue with kind of discussions in making change in mental issue for the students. Also, let's continue to cooperate to share experience in different matters. Yeah, I agree with you, Simon. You can just, as you're winding up, you can just text on the chat box and I'll read out your message. Thank you so much, guys, for attending this session, and we can leave at our own convenience at this point. And from Uganda, thank you. Tanzania, thank you. And Kenya, thank you so much. And have a good evening wherever you are. And don't forget to create awareness on mental health. Thank you so much. I'm Gladys Nzisa from Kenya, work from Youth Agenda.
Sorry.